All right, guys, I'm so excited to share this filling with you today for this pie. So during quarantine, I was bored, as many of us were, I'm sure you know. So I thought it'd be really fun to take a riff on one of my favorite cocktails, which is an old fashioned, and make an old fashioned apple pie. So this is my recipe. I want you to go ahead and use it at your leisure because I'm so excited about how good it came out. So in this pot right here, I have 3/4 cup of bourbon. I recommend using a really good one. I used Bullet bourbon today. I did the peel and juice of 1 orange. I did 1/3 cup of brown sugar for that nice yummy flavor of that old-fashioned cocktail. And then just for a little fun, I popped in a little bit of cardamom because that's one of my favorite spices, especially with orange. And I put in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch because we want to get that really thick. So with fruit pies, there's usually 2 methods that we usually hear of. There's kind of an old-fashioned method, which is just kind of mix sugar and cornstarch in with the fruit. And then there's what we call a cooked gel method. And this fruit gel that we make helps thicken up the fruit and keep it, from kind of oozing out and being like soupy and that you get sometimes at your home-baked pies. It's happened to me, I'm sure it's happened to you. So I want to teach you this method to prevent that. So we're gonna put this on the stove. We're only gonna get it to about a simmer for a couple minutes just to get that cornstarch activated. Cornstarch needs a little bit of heat to start to thicken up. And then we're gonna cool that to room temp and pour it over our apples. Another method you can do is cooking your fruit together with the cornstarch. That's something we do if we wanna do a chunkier apple pie. With this pie, I like to slice my apples super, super thin just to make sure they get cooked all the way through. And this gel will thicken them up really great. So we're gonna take this over to the stove. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. I wish I could show you what it smells like because it's really good. Whew. If you love an old fashioned, you're really gonna love this. Anytime you use cornstarch, you always wanna make sure you add cornstarch to the liquid when it's cold and then warm it up. If you have a warm liquid and try to add the cornstarch, it's just really never gonna dissolve and like fully mix in. A lot of times you'll see in recipes they say to add a slurry, which is cornstarch and water, to your cooked product. For this one, I'm not trying to keep my bourbon alcoholic. It's gonna be baked in a pie anyway, so it's okay for me to have that alcohol kind of cook out. So I just added it to begin with. And I'm really just looking to get that starchy flavor cooked out and get that cornstarch activated and thickening up a bit. That's really gonna help your fruit pies to stay together a lot more. One of the things that I see happen a lot with my own pies at home and a lot of questions I get about pies are, why is my pie so soupy? Why doesn't it look like the pies that I get in the bakery or the store? When you bake a pie, you really wanna let it set up for almost 8 hours. It's something I learned in pastry school. And I never knew that before. I always just immediately got it out of the oven and started digging right in. And I always had a soupy pie. Now, obviously, you don't need your home pie to be like a pie in the store, but if you ever wonder why, try letting your pie set up. I recommend baking a pie in the morning and then having your pie for dinner. It'll definitely give you a different outcome than you're used to. All right, guys, so this is coming to a bit of a simmer. I'm gonna turn down my heat so it doesn't go too fast. The reason I'm using this plastic spatula is this is a nonstick pan. You really don't wanna use anything metal on nonstick. All right, you can see after it starts to simmer, see how much that's thickening up right away? We're activating that cornstarch. We're just gonna cook it for about a minute. We do not wanna overcook this or we actually will start to degrade the starch. So we just want it just enough, look at that. So this is what's known as a fruit gel for your pies. It's just really gonna be the difference between watery, goopy pies and something that really stands up. All right, I would say this is ready to go. I'm going to pop this into a little bowl and cool it to room temperature before I actually use it in a pie. All right, guys, our mealy pie dough for our apple pie has had time to relax in the fridge for a bit. I'm gonna roll out our flaky pie dough first before I put the filling in the pie. I don't want anything to get too soupy or too wet until we want it to be, right? So I'm gonna roll out this flaky pie dough, put the filling in the pie, we're gonna dot it with some butter, and then we're gonna get it in the fridge to relax again before we bake it. That's gonna prevent your dough from kind of sliding around and doing anything weird. We spent all this time shaping it really nicely, so I don't want it to be funky when we bake it up. Obviously, you can pop it in the oven right away if you want to, and you're not trying to make your home pie look perfect, but I want to give you some tips and tools for how to make it look really good. So I'm going to roll out this flaky pie dough. I got my bench flour, which is just bread flour. I'm going to dust my countertop. Dust the dough. And I'm also going to do my rolling pin as well. Just going to pound this out gently. I like to stand up on my tippy toes, give myself some extra leverage, keep my dough moving, flipping it around. Focus on those edges. Those are going to be where you're thickest usually. If I start to feel it stick, I like to move the dough around on the table and bench flour it some more if I need to. For some reason, I just love to roll my dough into squares. So I like to focus on these edges that are kind of more like a square rectangle and round them out. All right, this dough is looking beautiful. We just want it to get over the top of the pie with a little bit of overhang so we have some stuff to work with for the edges. This is looking really good. All right, I'm gonna do just a little more, some thicker parts. Okay, so he is ready to rock. Just gonna move him over for a second while I get my filling ready. I've got my fruit gel that we cooled to room temperature. Got some nice thinly sliced apples. This is gonna keep the apples from being too raw when they bake up. You can also pre-cook apples if you wanna have bigger chunks. So I'm gonna toss my fruit gel in there. Beautiful. I'm just gonna toss this around a bit. If you like, you can squeeze some lemon juice on the apples to prevent them from oxidizing. Yummy. That bourbon smells so good in this right now. And I don't want to fill my pie like too full. That is one of those things, you know, the filling will come out the sides if it's too full. I get as much in there as I can. And if you want, you can really take your time and arrange these apples really prettily. It is just going to be the inside of a pie, so like we don't have to worry too much about that. No stress. All right, these are ready to go. I'm gonna get my filling in there. Press them down into the edges. This fruit gel smells amazing with that bourbon. You know, if you don't like bourbon, get creative. Some whiskey, you could do some liqueur. I think Cointreau is a really beautiful one for fruit. Okay, that's looking about as full as I want it to be. I can munch on those apples later. I'm gonna dot this pie with a little bit of butter. This is gonna create a really nice mouthfeel. Just give you that little extra richness as it bakes up. It's gonna melt down into those apples. Get some extra fat. Really lovely technique. All right, I'm gonna wipe off my hands and then get that top dough on. All right, I'm just gonna take my rolling pin and very carefully roll up this dough. And roll him back on. I'm gonna adjust him just slightly. Perfect. Ooh, that is looking good. I'm gonna pat my filling down just a bit. Then I'm gonna take my kitchen shears, just trim off the excess. We can use this excess to decorate the pie, cookie cutters, fondant cutters, or just cutting out cool shapes. There's a lot of really talented artists right now in the arena of pies. I recommend checking them out. There's a lot of that stuff you can do at home. All right, we're gonna save this dough for decorating. And now I'm gonna take my dough and I'm gonna take this top one and fold him under the bottom dough and tuck. Fold and tuck. We want these two doughs to kind of become one. Fold and tuck. That's why we want all this overhang. We want to have a nice edge on the edge of our pie. All right, make sure that all looks good. So now I'm gonna just very quickly edge this guy with a really easy rustic technique. I'm gonna use my knuckle and my 2 fingers like this. I'm just gonna do a nice little fluting. I have really small fingertips, but really long fingers, so that's why I use my knuckle. My mom always used to use her thumb. All right, this is ready to go. I'm gonna get this in the fridge for a few hours just to give that gluten and that butter time to relax and chill up and get a little hard again so that dough doesn't stretch all over the place. As I do that, I'm gonna take some time to do some cool decorations with our dough. I'm gonna show you how to do that, and I hope you guys enjoy. I can't wait for this to bake up and be done.